Speaking of Project 2025, the guy who runs the Heritage Foundation, Kevin Roberts was involved in Project 2025. He actually wrote the foreword to that book. That's how involved he is with Project 2025. And last week, he held something called a virtual faith media roundtable. So he's talking like on Zoom to a bunch of religious Christian leaders. And I wanted to point out one of the things he said, because this is an example of the lies that the right spreads left. He said that if Kamala Harris got elected, she would take away Christians' right to worship. This is from the Christian Post, but check out this. Check out this. Roberts described Kamala Harris as the most anti-faith, anti-religion presidential candidate in history. He maintained that people of faith who are worried about the choice they are making really need to understand what's at stake. We're going to lose our ability to worship. We're going to lose our religious liberty if the Harris-Walz campaign prevails. I'm going to get to that last bit in a second. What the hell is this guy talking about? How is she anti-faith, anti-religion? None of that is true. Why the hell would you think she's going to shut down churches? Nothing she has ever said says she would do that or wants to do that or even would consider it. Never. There's no legal mechanism that would allow that to happen. And by the way, church-state separation groups would be at the front of the line saying you can't do that. And by the way, these same people said the same thing about Joe Biden. They said the same thing about Barack Obama. But look at this next thing he said. Where is he getting this information from? He said he cited the vice president's suggestion to attendees at one of her recent rallies who shouted phrases including Christ is King, that they were at the wrong rally as an example of her hostility to religion. What the hell is he talking about? Let me tell you. You may have seen this online in the news somewhere that a couple of weeks ago, Harris did a rally, and in the middle of her speech, there were protesters, which is not weird. There have been progressive protesters about Gaza. There have been MAGA people protesting because they don't like listening to women. Well, anyway, I'm sure from her vantage point, she saw these protesters, and they were maybe wearing MAGA hats or something like that. And she said to them, "Oh, you guys are at the wrong rally. I think you meant to go to the smaller one down the street," which is a great line. And it got a lot of laughs in the arena. And it also got shared a lot on social media because she's going after the thing that hurts Trump the most, his ego, right? Well, apparently, after the fact, the Christian media pointed out that those protesters, I'm sure she couldn't hear them from where she was at, but they were yelling things like Christ is King, which means the way they were spinning this is that those protesters were yelling about Jesus, and Kamala Harris yells back, "Oh, you guys are at the wrong rally. I think you meant to go over there." Like, that's not at all what happened. That's not even what the initial reporting said. That's just the narrative the right ran with to paint Kamala Harris as anti-Christian, which is ridiculous because she's Baptist and her husband is Jewish and her running mate is Lutheran, and she discusses her faith all the time on the campaign trail, and she had all these religious leaders vouching for and pushing for her presidency. Like, there's nothing about her that is anti-Christian. I promise you she is not showing up at atheist meetings of any kind. But for guys like Kevin Roberts, only a certain type of Christian ever counts. Everyone else is anti-Christian and evil. This guy also, same dude, he was talking about Donald Trump. And you might think he would say, you know, Donald Trump isn't perfect. He's not like Jesus, but we're still going to support him. No, this is what he said about the other side. Roberts lamented that there are people of faith who are sitting on the sidelines because they have forgotten that we are electing a president, not a pastor. He contended that Christians who plan on sitting out this election because of their concerns about Trump need to remember that none of us is perfect, including Trump and Vance. Again, this goes right back to what I was saying earlier about the double standards. No one is suggesting Trump and Vance are perfect. There are no standards for them whatsoever. Like, what do you mean none of us is perfect? They're not even barely competent, and yet they're acting like Kamala Harris needs to be absolutely perfect. That's ridiculous. He also says we're electing a president, not a pastor, as if to discredit what? Like, we know no one's perfect, but like, what are they dismissing about Donald Trump? It's the racism, the rape allegations, the criminal charges, the 36 counts, that he was indicted for, the 2 impeachments. Like, that is so far from, well, don't worry about it. We're not electing a pastor. We're electing a president. Dude, have you seen what pastors are up to lately? Those guys aren't great either. But that is not what they said when it was like Barack Obama, who was pretty much scandal free. That's definitely not what they said about Bill Clinton. At that point, the president had to set a moral example for the entire country. And guys like Kevin Roberts were the ones leading that charge. We can't have Bill Clinton in office. He's immoral. And now it's Donald Trump. And they're like, well, who cares about a president's morality? Since when did that stuff ever matter? One of the things this guy wrote in Project 2025 is that if conservatives want to save the country, we need a bold and courageous plan. This book is the first step in that plan. And that's why he was pushing for Donald Trump, because if Trump got elected, then that plan could be in effect. If Kamala Harris won, then the plan would be destroyed, or it'd become Project 2029. And now, instead of explaining to anybody why Trump is worth supporting, he was telling his supporters why you should vote for Donald Trump because Kamala Harris hates Christians and she wants to shut down your churches. Because when you're a Christian leader, you always think it's okay to lie in the name of Jesus. All lies are okay if it goes back to getting the power you want. That is what their faith has become. Which is weird because Joe Biden's like the most religious president we've had in a really long time. And just like Joe Biden, Kevin Roberts is actually a conservative Catholic. Biden's Catholic, obviously, not conservative. Roberts is also a Catholic. And yet Project 2025 said the Biden administration has been hostile to people of faith, especially those with traditional beliefs about marriage, gender, and sexuality, which is a really weird thing to say, because if I told you, yeah, you got to protect my traditional religious views when it comes to race, I think everyone would know, oh, no, we don't want to defend that at all. That's disgusting, your traditional views on race. And yet, when they're like, we just want to protect our traditional views on marriage, it's like, oh, what exactly does that mean for you? Oh, right. It means you want to like break up all gay couples. You don't think they should be allowed to be together. What are your traditional views about gender? It's that trans people don't exist and the woman is nothing more than just a helpmeet for the husband. Just say that out loud. Don't couch it in this language. So, like, look, even if Kamala Harris won, Christianity would have been doing just fine. Somehow Christianity survived the Obama years. I don't know how, but they did. And now they're going to have more power than ever before. And they're going to be able to enact their faith-based bigotry in so many different ways because this guy is now, he got exactly what he wanted. How did he do it? He did it by lying about Kamala Harris. And he's not the first. He won't be the last to say that about Democrats. But this is their playbook now. They will just lie about Democrats, treat them as enemies of religion, no matter how much outreach to religious groups Democrats do. Just another thing I find infuriating, and I don't know why they're allowed to get away with it. You will never hear a Democrat say, man, that other side, they're hostile to Jews. They're hostile to Muslims, and they can't get away with it. But when Republicans say Democrats are anti-Christian and they want to shut down our churches, they're just allowed to say that, and all these people just believe it and spread it. Okay, I'm going to stop there for that story. What questions do we have? Hey, I know y'all might be understandably stressed and worried. Just know you're not alone. There's a Discord. Community helps. There is a Discord for Friendly Atheist. Den, maybe you could find that on my friendly. Thank you. There we go. There's the Discord link if you want that. Thank you for that donation, by the way. I appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, I hope you know this. I've heard a couple anecdotal, scary stories about people reacting to the election in really horrific ways. Don't worry about that. You will find solidarity there. You are going to find that there are so many people who are right there with you and pushing back against this stuff. And the more Republicans overreach and the more they try to butt into everyone's lives, the bigger the reaction is going to be. And I hope all of you and myself, I hope we're all a part of that. pushing back, not giving them any ground they have not earned. Thank you, Cabby. I may appear to be arguing against you, but what I say, but I'm here 100% because I appreciate what you do. Don't know who you're arguing with. Maybe it was someone in the comments, but I appreciate that. And again, this is the thing I think is important. Why isn't there like a liberal Joe Rogan? Because we are a big tent. We have to be. There's nowhere else for anywhere for anyone to go. So there are so many disagreements among Democrats. We've seen it in the wake of the election where they're snipping at each other about what should have been done during the campaign. The Republican Party's problem is incompetence. It's not that they don't share the one brain cell and pass it around amongst each other. It's that they're just bad at governing. So there are going to be a lot of disagreements among Democrats about how to move forward. You won't see those policy debates in Republican circles because they don't care about policy. Someone's just going to tell them what to do. They're going to go along with it because they're not interested in hashing out good ideas. It's just not a feature of their party. So listen, argue all you want. Do it in good faith. Please listen to what the other side is saying, but then, have a good, reasoned debate. Evangelicals mix religious beliefs into their political identity. They're convinced they're the people who are correct and fighting for righteousness. They don't think they're bad. That's the irony. It is one of the hallmarks of the Trump era in the past several years of politics that what does it even mean to be an evangelical anymore? There used to be like a small list of like, you have to believe in the resurrection of Jesus. You have to believe that you can be born again, things like that. Like, if you believe those things, you're an evangelical. And these days, that clearly isn't what is binding all those people together. What binds them together is that they're moved by Donald Trump and their churches are arms of the GOP. That is a bigger glue. They use the language of faith to do it, but it's just like the MAGA cult, except religious edition. That's what they're bound together by. So it is interesting. Like, yeah, they have mixed religious beliefs into their political identity, but I would argue that white evangelicals, and specifically white, because black Christians are not part of the problem here. White evangelicals are very much, what they have in common is politics. It is not interpretation of what Jesus said. It is politics, which is really interesting because white evangelical is more of a political label then, as opposed to a religious one, which is a big change moving forward.